Okay, so today we're going to create value scales. So you will need a ruler and then your pencil. And then inside your bag, I gave you a gray kneadable eraser. What you're going to do is grab a little piece of that and pull some of that out. Now, when you actually pull it, it's a little stretchy. And on the inside, you'll notice that it is a little bit lighter. So that inside, when you are stretching, is a sticky material. And any time that you need to renew this eraser, you'll stretch it a little bit and fold it so that the lighter end is in the front. So what I just did is I went ahead and shaped my kneadable eraser so that I can use it when I'm shading. So what we're going to do today is actually create a 10-inch by 1-inch rectangle. So what I'm going to do to make this easier is I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to draw a 10-inch line. At each inch mark, I'm going to draw little lines so that I can separate this rectangle into 10 1 by 1 inch boxes. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to draw my 1-inch width. Now I'm going to do this on both the left side and the right side. The last thing I'm going to do to complete this is I'm going to draw one more 10-inch line, and again I'm going to make a mark at every inch so that I can start creating boxes. So the last thing I need to do is take my ruler and align each dot that I made at the inch mark. And what I'm doing is just finishing off those boxes so that they are each 1 by 1 inch. In each of these squares, we will be shading values. And we will start from our lightest value all the way to the darkest value. So I'm just going to take some time and clean up any of my overlines, any markings that I have on the paper so that I'm ready to start shading. Starting from the left, I am going to shade my lightest value, and then I'm going to gradually transition into my darkest value. Now remember, each square should be a different value, so your challenge is to steadily increase your value to the darkest shade that you can. I'm going to adjust the grip of my pencil so that it's easier to shade my lightest value. Now I'm going to move my hand all the way to the bottom of the pencil. Now what I'm doing is applying the lightest pressure I can, so I'm barely applying any pressure at all. I want to have a value that is almost as light as the paper. Now, when you're shading, you don't want to go back and forth. You actually want to rotate in circular motions. This will make it so much easier to blend and transition your values. As I'm rotating my pencil, what I'm doing is I'm overlapping so I can create a nice layer of value. As you're rotating your pencil, I want you to notice how I'm starting from an area and really packing in some value. And once that area has enough value, I'm going to slowly move and cover the rest of the square. Now you want to make sure that the square only has one value. So you're challenged to make sure that you don't add too little or too much pressure when you are shading just one value. But of course, this is our first time actually practicing a value scale, so you will have areas that may be too dark because you applied too much pressure, or too light because you didn't apply enough pressure, and those are something that we should focus on when we are correcting those areas. So I'm going to go ahead and shade my darkest value. So I went ahead and shaded my lightest value and now my darkest. And these will be good references when I'm creating my value scales, whether I'm stepping up in value or stepping down in value. The key is to make sure that each square is a different value. And this can be quite challenging when you are first starting out learning how to shade. What I like to do is compare the squares that are next to each other and make sure that the values are not the same. So I want to talk about a common issue that happens when you're shading. If you're having this issue where there are darker areas within the area that you shaded, that means you applied a little bit too much pressure in these concentrated areas. I would not worry, this is an easy fix, and this is kind of where your kneadable eraser comes into play. So what I'm doing right now is I'm stretching the eraser so the sticky side is facing up, and then I'm forming the eraser into a small point. This shape will kind of help get into those hard to reach areas and help blot out some of those darker concentrated areas in my value square. I'm lightly tapping until those areas become a little bit less noticeable and they kind of melt into the value that I had already created. When you are drawing, you are going to make so many mistakes, and I want to let you know that it is okay. It is absolutely a part of the process. You are going to accidentally apply too much pressure in an area, or you're going to accidentally leave an area blank. And what you're going to be doing during this whole entire process of drawing and shading is using that kneadable eraser to fix up the areas that are too dark and applying a little bit more of your graphite in the areas that you may need a little bit more value or that needs some shading. And going back and forth like this is how you will perfect your craftsmanship. Okay, so don't expect to get the right value or the right texture all in one shot. Your goal today is really to focus on how much pressure you're applying when you're shading. This is key to understanding how you can go from light to dark or dark to light. When we understand how to apply the different values, it will be so much easier when you start shading your final project.